down go the holier than thous.
That's right.
Husky reports that he is on his way to the Milwaukee Bucks.
He's not getting his happy ending this time.
Okay, it is Thursday, December 28th. Happy holidays today. Having on Steve Mcgehee, News 9 in Oklahoma City, talking all things Thunder. Awesome year they're having this year. 3rd seed, were 9th seed last year in the play-in. Didn't even make the playoffs, lost to Minnesota in that play-in tournament. But now a 3 seed, looking really good. Going to break down what's working for them and how the rest of the season goes. Going to break down today the New Year's 6 games going on that will be happening over this weekend and on Monday, of course, as well. Already had a guest on for all the 4 teams in the playoffs. So Michigan, Alabama, Texas, and Washington. We are definitely going to break down all the other 4 New Year's 6 games, Peach, Cotton, all that. But first, let's break down, guys, really rapid fire, Week 17 games, or Week 16 games, excuse me. I want to start with Bengals, Steelers. Start with the Saturday games first. Bengals, Steelers. Rudolph, I think, should have been the quarterback all year long. That's my only takeaway from this game. He played absolutely amazing. Bengals offense was non-existent, and they're really missing Jamar Chase. But yeah, Rudolph, I mean, absolutely amazing. He should have been pretty much the quarterback all year long for the Steelers because he came out and he played.
He should have been
better
at least
than I really thought he would
instead of
play.
Mitch Trubisky. And they finally got George Pickens involved, 3 touchdown catches. You know, this is the version of Pickens we've been waiting all year for. This is the version of the Steelers offense we've waited all year for, and it came at the right time. And I mean, tough loss for the Bengals because now they're probably going to be on the outside looking in. They're going to Kansas City this week, and they play the Browns Week 18. And you know, Jake Browning, he made a lot of great throws the last couple of weeks. Didn't make a whole lot of great throws this week.
Very telling that that Rudolph was the quarterback here that picked up the offense for the Steelers, and instead of Kenny Pickett or Mitch Trubisky, probably the first 2 quarterbacks on the depth chart. So I think Rudolph has definitely earned his place as a starter, maybe even as a backup in Pittsburgh.
Well, we'll go through kind of rapid style again. Week 17 games coming up after we break down the bowl games coming up this weekend. But this is going to be one of my most intriguing games coming up, Steelers next weekend, because I want to see how they're going to play again. They need to keep it consistent because if they can play well again, Steelers are going to be a scary team to face in the playoffs if they do make the playoffs at least. I mean, they're going to be a scary team, especially if they play offensively well 2 games in a row, because we all know their defense is solid, so they can play offensively well two games in a row going into the playoffs. It's going to be a scary team to face in the playoffs if they were to make it. Bills Chargers, weird game. I thought this game would be weird. Chargers just fired Staley, of course, and then the Bills have been having problems all year. It was a rough win for the Bills, and I think a lot of people were saying Bills are a sleeper team in the playoffs now, but I want to get your guys' thoughts on this. I mean, if the Bills would have lost this game, I think this rhetoric would have been completely different because a lot of people were saying that no one wants to play the Bills in the playoffs, but people don't really realize, I mean, they barely won this game against a really bad Chargers team. So what are your guys' thoughts on this? I mean, they looked really sloppy all game, except really it took, heroics in the fourth quarter to get out this win.
I know it was a close game against the Chargers, but I'm still going to ride with the Bills here, and I think they might be. Now I think they're starting to get things back on track ever since Ken Dorsey was fired as the offensive coordinator. Joe Brady has made Josh Allen into the quarterback that everybody has talked about throughout his career, and I think Josh Allen is definitely turning the Bills around, and the Bills, they still could be a contender in the AFC. Maybe not win the division, but maybe that comes down to the Dolphins in Week 18 in Miami.
Yeah, that's all they need is just to win this week and have the Dolphins lose to the Ravens. I think this is the perfect trap game. The Bills played their best game of the season against the Cowboys. The Chargers played their worst game of the season. So you knew that was kind of going to get reversed. And, with an interim coach, Chargers are going to come out and play hard. I don't look at this as anything more than Buffalo escaped. Good for them. And, there's no such thing as a bad win in the NFL. If you felt good about the Bills before this game, you should still feel good about them.
Browns, Texans, Flacco, Amari Cooper, really good together, and the Texans really need Stroud back. That was my
pretty much
that's
sums
my
it up.
takeaway.
That sums it up.
I don't know if you guys want to add anything else. Yeah. Also pretty fast, Commanders, Jets. I think Jacoby Brissett should have been the Commanders quarterback all year long.
There's no purpose.
He
in
played
Sam
really well
Hamilton this season when you've got a quarterback that he's a veteran that's going nowhere. You might as well just ride it out. I don't get that.
Yeah, maybe ride it out for next year with Hal.
Yeah, I mean, he played well, though. Breece Hall played a good game, too. 95 rushing yards. His most since his 177-yard game in Week 5 against the Broncos. So Breece Hall, resurgence as well. Other takeaway from this game. Seahawks-Titans. Geno Smith came back from that groin injury, finally. Just did enough to get them a win against the Titans at home. So yeah, that's my only other takeaway. I mean, Vikings lost this weekend as well. We'll get to that. But the Seahawks, if they win out, they'll make the playoffs. So something that we didn't really think would happen.
Same winning score back-to-back weeks.
Possibility
they did it with different quarterbacks. Last week it was Drew Lock. This week it was Geno. And they did it on the day that they didn't really run the ball. Seattle's got the Steelers and the Cardinals. I think they've got a pretty good chance to win out and make the playoffs.
Colts Falcons offensive line really bad for the Colts. That offensive line has been the most consistent factor for the Colts all year, and it was really bad against the Falcons on I think it was Sunday they played. But yeah, now it's that's all my only takeaway from that game too.
The AFC South, nobody wants to win it.
That's pretty much it. It's the Yep. No, it's a lot of times like that. Packers, Panthers. What do I have about the Packers, Panthers? Bryce Young, best game of his year, or best game of his career. Bryce Young, that is. Packers offense, though, looked back on track, so they were able to come away with that victory. But yeah, I mean, what are you thinking about that? I think it was Bryce Young's best game of his career. I mean, best in career yards, 312 yards per attempt at just under 9, and a passer rating of 113. I mean, this is all while he tossed for a pair of touchdowns and 0 interceptions. So, yeah, Bryce Young, coming in way too late, but best game of his career.
I think the
Lions, Vikings.
I think the Packers, there was a good win for them, but Bryce Young could be good next year if he has the right coaching around him in Carolina.
Yeah. And Packers, on the Packers side, like I said, their offense came back looking really well. They, without their top 3 receivers, they still flourished. And obviously, like I said, we're able to get that win against the Panthers in Carolina. Lions, Vikings. What I have about the Lions, Vikings. Lions didn't really convert on third down a lot, but when they did, it was in crucial times. And then, of course, they also had those crucial fourth down conversions too. Kept the momentum going all game long, it seems. Lions, despite the Lions having 4 interceptions, it could have been worse, though. It looks like, they should have even had more interceptions than those, but that they were able to play on both sides of the ball very well, move the ball all game very, very well. And like I said, for a nightmare for the Vikings in the backfield, and we were able to get back on track. And they needed a game. They needed a game badly where their defense did show out and play well, because that's been a very bad rhetoric for the team for a long time. So good for the Lions, able to come out and get
first
a win
division title in 30 years.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's insane. It wasn't even called. I don't think it was called the NFC North back then. It was Yeah, technically it was the first time they win.
That's right.
The first time they clinched the NFC North ever. Sunday slate, late slate Sunday. Jags, Bucks. Yeah, Baker was protected all game. He continues to play amazing, and Trevor is clearly not okay, and turnovers continue to be a big issue for him. So my only takeaway from this game is really just the quarterback rhetoric, the quarterback narrative, and Baker. He's been playing absolutely amazing. Offense scored on its first 6 possessions. And like I said, Baker just had all the time in the world, protected pocket, barely was pressured, and Bucks were able to come away with the
Bucks
Jags.
have been as hot as anybody in football.
Cardinals.
Baker's playing maybe the best of any quarterback in the NFC, and the Jags, they've lost 4 in a row. They've got a lot of questions. Their quarterback can't stay healthy.
Yeah, like I said, Trevor Lawrence, his giveaway issues are major concerns. Like I said, he's not feeling the best. Of course, he definitely has that lingering. I think what
It's
is
a
it?
shoulder
Foot
injury now.
injury? Foot? I don't remember, but
It's not good if you have to wonder what his
well, it's
injury
close.
is.
He threw for 200. Yeah, no, it's not. Yeah, true. Lawrence threw 2 interceptions in the first half that led to 2 touchdowns for the Buccaneers. 14-point swing there, and then his fumble also led to a 21-point giveaway for the Bucs as well. So yeah, big takeover issues. 8 giveaways. That's 5 interceptions and 3 fumbles in his last 3 games, and has 19 turnovers in his 15 games as well. So yeah, unacceptable for a franchise quarterback, but he is dealing with that shoulder injury, and hopefully he can get back soon. Cardinals, Bears. Bears were in Kyler Murray's face pretty much all game, and it was just a really good game for their pass rush, and that's the only thing I have to say about that game. I don't know if you guys want to throw anything else into the Bears Cardinals.
Getting the best of both worlds right now. They're 6-8, and they've shown some signs of life, and they're still going to get the number 1 pick in the draft because they own Carolina's pick.
Dolphins, Cowboys. Dolphins were simply just better at scoring. Obvious statement, but Cowboys had they had a hard time getting into the red zone, or getting into they were in the red zone a lot, but they had a hard time getting into the end zone. Excuse me. And we knew it would be a high scoring game and a fun game to watch. It certainly was, but Dolphins only had 3 more first downs and only 36 more total yards on the game. So close game. We all thought it would be a close game, but like I said, Dallas just struggled to punch anything into the end zone, and had a hard time just scoring, and compared to the Dolphins, that is. And of course, that leads to a win with the Dolphins. How that will work
Jason
out.
Sanders, 5 field goals
of the time. Sunday night football. Yeah, right. That's it's crazy. Sunday night football, Patriots, Broncos. Zappy played pretty solid for the Pats. Hey, no one saw that really coming. New England defense, turnovers led the points, and Broncos had chances to win, but just squandered them. I mean, they ran every play of each of their first 3 drives in New England's territory, but only came away with 1 score. They had a chance for a drive to win the game, but failed miserably, and then the Pats let the Pats do it instead. So the Broncos had chances, but again, New England's defense turned the ball over on the Broncos all game, and Zappy able to do enough to get a win. Monday slate, Raiders, Chiefs. I think we can clump the Raiders, Chiefs, and the Giants, Eagles together. I mean, I'm very concerned about the Chiefs and the Eagles. Chiefs obviously did lose. Eagles won, but still bad games for each team. We'll start with the Raiders and Chiefs. I mean, Raiders couldn't even throw the ball, but they still have ways to win, and the Chiefs' offense just looked inept.
I'll say this about both the Chiefs and the Eagles, more so for probably the Chiefs, and really both teams. There's not really a runaway contender in the AFC, and you can even say in the NFC.
Baltimore.
I mean, Baltimore definitely, but I would say the NFC right now. I mean, San Francisco's probably the leader in the clubhouse right now, but there are a few injuries away on offense from really going down on the pecking order. Let's say Brock Purdy got hurt, which he did. It's not a serious injury, but an injury for San Francisco is not good. And you saw what the Ravens did to them. The Ravens are a serious threat.
Yeah, the Ravens are the clear favorite in the AFC right now. The Chiefs are going to have to play on the road, it looks like, for the first time in the playoffs. And their offensive line's bad. Their receivers are bad. Can't run the ball. Other than that, they're playing great.
Raiders' defensive line was amazing. My only other point in this game. 4 sacks, 7 tackles for a loss, and Mahomes running all game. The Chiefs had no running game, which isn't good when their receivers can't catch, of course. And just fumble recovery for a TD and a pick 6 as well for the Raiders. So just good game. Raiders defense dominating. I mean, their offense, like I said, couldn't really get much done, but defense won game, wins championships, they say, and it definitely won this game for the Raiders. Giants, Eagles. Eagles win, but ugly. It's still ugly. Yeah, I mean, Justin, you can go ahead. I'll let you start with that.
Jalen Hurts still continuing some of the turnover issues that he's had this year. For Hurts, I still think he can win games. I still think he's a top quarterback, but the problem is that the turnovers are a concern this year, and coaching for the Eagles too, as they really had the game against the Giants. The special teams play when Zacchaeus bumped into Boston Scott, that let the Giants back in the game, and then the Jalen Hurts throwing a pick six to Adoree Jackson. He takes it to the house. That was a close game for the Eagles, and are they a serious football team right now? I'll ask you guys that. Are the Eagles a serious contender?
I don't.
I
I
think
think
so.
they have a lot of holes.
I think they could still win the NFC, but I think they're very flawed.
Yes.
Yeah.
I still think they're flawed too, but can they still could win the NFC. Even Detroit could win
Sure,
it.
they can.
Or still the Niners can, obviously. I'd still say the Niners. I don't think the Niners are a lock, but I still think
They're the favorites.
they're the favorites right now. Dallas, maybe not. Maybe not Dallas because they can't win an impressive game on the road against a big contender. That includes the Bills, the Dolphins, the 49ers, Eagles, even losing to the Cardinals earlier this year for Dallas. So I think the NFC is wide open. The AFC, the one thing I will not say about Baltimore not being a clear favorite is Lamar Jackson's playoff record. Can he turn it around this year in the playoffs?
Yeah. Well, we can get into that game. I mean, you kind of already been touching on it, Justin. But the last game, Sunday night, or I guess Monday Night Football, this Week 16 slate, Ravens, 49ers. 49ers did not look good, and Ravens just looked really, really good. And that's my
Four turnovers.
That's my analysis of the game. Brock Purdy finally had his
the
false.
Ravens. They showed who's the best team in the NFL right now. There's no doubt about it. They can win in a variety of ways. That defense is phenomenal. They ran the ball effectively. But even in a game where they didn't run the ball a ton early, Lamar was able to make plays with his arm and with his legs, and we're seeing the full development of Lamar as a pocket passer. I think over the last couple weeks or so, I think they're clearly the favorite in the AFC. I think they're clearly the favorite right now in the NFL. And as far as the 49ers are concerned, I'm not overly worried about them because 3 of their 4 losses are against the AFC North. They won't have to play any of those teams unless they meet in the Super Bowl. I don't know if anybody in the NFC can match the physicality of the 49ers.
Yeah, bad game for the 49ers, but still an awesome team, of course. They just had no momentum at home to start the game. For their first 4 drives, 3 had turnovers. So that just erased any momentum. And then, of course, Lamar Jackson. If Lamar Jackson plays even decent the next 2 games, he's MVP of the league. I think that's pretty much decided at this point. If you would ask a lot of people, I think a lot of people would say the same thing. As long as he just plays the game decently well the next 2 games, he's going to be MVP of the league. And Ravens, as always, both sides of the ball, complimentary football, just played really, really well. Turnovers, and then their offense was just lighting it up as well. Thursday Night Football's tonight. I don't have much else to say. Browns should win. Jets are very bad.
That's about it.
It's Joe Flacco is Flacco, second quarterback in Browns history to record 3 straight 300-yard passing games, and the first in Browns history to throw for 300 yards and 3 straight wins. So the former MVP, third oldest player in NFL history to record 3 straight 300-yard games, and that's only behind Tom Brady and Warren Moon. So Joe Flacco is I love to see the resurgence. It's pretty awesome. And like I said, Jets are just terrible. So him and Amari Cooper, I think, are going to light it up. And I think we've already kind of touched on that a little bit as well. Bowl games coming up December 19th. We'll start with them. Like I said, we already kind of touched base. I'll let you guys say what you guys want to say about the Sugar Bowl, Rose Bowl, but already touched base on those games a lot. We, you can go back to previous episodes. We had a guest on for every single team. We broke down the matchups pretty in depth in those interviews, but didn't really touch on the other of the 4 New Year's 6 games. And we'll start with the Cotton Bowl right now, December 29th, excuse me. Backup quarterback for Ohio State against Missouri. Backup quarterback Devin Brown is expected to play against Missouri with McCord's departure. Buckeyes are the Missouri's highest-ranked bowl opponent since the 1970 Orange Bowl. So it's going to be a tough matchup for Missouri. And then I want to get your thoughts, Zach. I mean, what do you think about this game? I mean,
It depends
I
on
know
if
you'll be
Ohio
watching.
State's motivated, because their season basically ended against Michigan, and they felt that for an entire month. It does seem like that most of their guys are going to play in this game, except for Marvin Harrison Jr., because, of course, he's going pro. He's going to be a top 5 pick. But it seems like everybody else is going to opt in to play in this game at the very least, if not come back next year. So Ohio State should be pretty close to 100% for this game. But Missouri, this is one of the biggest games in program history. That's what worries me about this game. And I think Ohio State will win, but I think it's going to be close. I think, if Ohio State shows up motivated and shows up ready to go, I think they can go out there and win this game. But Missouri's going to, that's a team with Brady Cook, a good quarterback, and a team that's got a lot to play for. This is one of the biggest games in program history. So I think this is going to be a very intriguing game. It's essentially a pick 'em in Vegas, and I can definitely see why.
Yeah, it's going to be a big game for Missouri, especially, like I said, just going into next year. You want momentum, and they're trying to build something big in that program. Obviously, played well against Georgia, Missouri. They played really, really well against Georgia. They proved that they can fight 60 minutes against a really good team with a really elite talent players on the team. So it's going to be definitely a good game. And like you said, Zach, they have the motivation factor for sure against Ohio State, and it's going to, I agree, it's a pick 'em, and it's going to be an interesting game, really fun game to watch. Justin, if you got nothing to add, we'll go to Peach Bowl, December 30th. Ole Miss, Penn State. Ole Miss will need to play a balanced game to win. They're a little bit more unpredictable than Penn State. Penn State is really talented, faster, and physical on defense. They held their 12 opponents to 15 or fewer points, and the Rebels need to be able to mix it up on offense to be able to get anything really done against Penn State. And that's my biggest takeaway. Rushing defense in Penn State is absolutely amazing. The Rebels can be pretty unpredictable on offense. So I think Penn State will end up coming away with this game. I think their defense is going to end up holding Ole Miss, and they're going to end up coming away with this game. And I don't know, I'll let you guys say whatever else you want to look out for in this game.
I think Penn State against top teams, especially under James Franklin, has not been the best. I think Ole Miss coming into this game, led by Jackson Dart, who's thrown 20 touchdowns and 5 interceptions on the season, against Drew Alter, who's only thrown 1 interception on 23 touchdowns for Penn State. Very impressive for Drew Alter, but I think Ole Miss comes away with the win here.
Yeah, I like Ole Miss as well because I don't trust James Franklin in these kind of spots. Penn State's offense has been iffy in big games this year. Ole Miss, I think, has a little bit more firepower, so I'm going with the Rebs.
Yeah. Penn State will need to lean on their defense. I don't think the offense is going to win this game for Penn State. It's going to be the defense, like I kind of said earlier. And Dart, you mentioned Dart, Justin. He has an ability to run and scramble, and that should pay dividends in this game too. If like I said, especially with that pass rush that Penn State has and their amazing defensive line and being able to stop any kind of run. Orange Bowl, Georgia against FSU, December 30th. Awesome. This is going to be an amazing game for many, many reasons. Georgia can still argue as well.
Everybody's opting out on both sides. Georgia's got like 20 players transferring. Florida State, their best receivers, their best running back, their best quarterback, or their best available quarterback, all opting out of this game, and I don't blame them because this game means absolutely nothing. And if you're Florida State, what's the motivation to play in this game? So Georgia's probably going to win comfortably, but I mean, this game sounded much bigger than
it's a shame.
It sounded bigger the day it came out than what it's actually going to be.
It's a shame. Yeah, well, like you said, it's a shame because this would be an awesome game on paper. Obviously, Georgia, if everyone plays in Georgia, could argue it's still one of the best teams, if not the best teams in the league, probably at least top 4. And FSU has proven that they're top 4 too, and they got snubbed, and that's the whole. We already said that at length. So it definitely would have been a cool game if everyone played, but I don't, like you said, Zach, I don't really blame them to sit out. Fiesta Bowl. Let's do Fiesta Bowl. Liberty and Oregon. I kind of said this from the beginning. This is a January 1st game along with the playoff games. I've already said this already, but I think it's a little weird that Oregon is playing Liberty. I think it's a little bit of slap in the face to Oregon. Liberty, of course, playing a very good season, but still not the caliber of Oregon. I think Oregon is still a top at least 5 team in the league. So it's just, what do you guys think on this game coming up? Liberty needs to keep Bo Nix off the field, and they need to run the ball well in order to win this game. I mean, what else do you guys
I
want
think
to
it's
really
more of a slap in the face to
show to this
Liberty
game?
that they're playing Oregon. I mean, I know Liberty could be the underdog and basically be a Cinderella story here against Oregon, but Liberty and Oregon should not be playing each other in the Fiesta Bowl. I think Liberty should be playing a different team, but I think Oregon is got the win in this game. They have the advantage. Bo Nix has had an outstanding season along with the Oregon offense, so I think Oregon wins this year.
Yeah, I expect Oregon to win this game rather comfortably. I think they're going to want to make a statement after losing out on a potential playoff berth against Washington. Bo Nix is going to play in this game. I think Oregon, where they're just going to manhandle Liberties in the trenches. So I got the Ducks.
Yeah, the Flames, Liberty, awesome running game, but that's against they were facing much lesser opponents than Oregon. They do have the country's best running game at 303 yards per game. Like I said, the talent has not been the same as it was for Oregon, and Oregon just needs to play their style of football, explosive offense, and just have Nix kind of cook this game. And I don't think they'll have any problems really taking care of Liberty. Offense, top-ranked unit in the country, control the pace of the game, control the pace to their liking like they always do, like they're so well at doing. And defense, I just mentioned how Liberty is one of the best running teams in the country, while Oregon is probably one of the best running defenses in the country as well. And it's going to be a really, really tough matchup for Liberty. And I'm actually surprised it's on January 1st. I'm really surprised they didn't have this game a little, this wasn't another, one of the games leading up into the New Year's. Let's break down this upcoming week of the NFL, NFL, college football, NFL sandwich here. But we're just going to go break down games that we think are the most intriguing. We're not going to really go through our whole, rundown like we always do, but we're just going to kind of break down what games we think are the most intriguing coming up. I've already mentioned it with the Bills. I want to see the Bills come out and play well. I mentioned it with the Steelers. I want to see the Steelers really come out and play well next week and see what they can do. See if they can keep this momentum going with Rudolph under center against the Seahawks. Right. And then, of course, the Seahawks have to win out as well in order to make the playoffs. So that's going to be a very intriguing game for me. Any other games that are really intriguing for you guys coming up in this
I don't think there's any doubt
slate in the NFL?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
That's an MVP battle right there. Lamar Jackson, probably the favorite right now for the NFL MVP. But Tua Tagovailoa, he might be behind. He might be behind Lamar Jackson for the MVP. But I think he should be in the conversation and definitely should win the comeback player of the year for the Dolphins. So I think this is basically the battle for the number 1 seed in the AFC and possibly for the NFL MVP. And I'm shocked that this isn't a Sunday night game.
Yeah, it absolutely should be the Sunday night game ahead of the Packers and the Vikings. Yeah. If I'm going to go outside of this game, I'm going to go to the Saturday night game. I'm going Detroit and Dallas because Cowboys have just been the best home team in the league this year, 7-0. They've only really played one close game, and that was the Seahawks on a Thursday night a couple weeks ago. If you're the Lions, you want to show that you're for real, go down to Dallas, give yourself an opportunity to win this game. And if they can do that, they'll probably get at least the number 2 seed, if not have an outside possibility of getting the number 1 seed if the 49ers were to stumble against probably the Rams in Week 18. So kind of a statement chance for the Lions. If you win at Arrowhead and you win at Dallas, there's not much that anybody can say as far as this team isn't for real. And if you're the Cowboys, you need this one against another good team because the one consistent knock against them is outside of the Eagles, they really haven't beaten too many good teams this year. So I'm really looking forward to that game.
Yeah, you mentioned NFC is still on the table. I mean, anyway, you can still win the NFC for sure. Eagles are playing bad. Niners just got blown out, and Cowboys are still a really good team. I mean, they did play well against the Dolphins last week. They just weren't able to get it done. It's going to be the defense is going to win that game. Lions, Cowboys, the defense will win that game because both teams are going to score a lot. So it's whoever a crucial stops and forcing some 1 or 2 crucial turnovers. Not to state the obvious, but that will be the absolute factor in this game. Jahmyr Gibbs, he's emerging for the Lions. That's going to be something to look out for too. And then CeeDee Lamb, of course, is playing just absolutely amazing. 109 passes, first in the NFL he's caught, and for only 151 targets too. So his completion rate is just amazing. And then has over 1,400 yards of total offense as a receiver as well, which is second in the NFL. So yeah, CeeDee Lamb playing amazing, Jahmyr Gibbs emergence, and this offense is going to be explosive with each other, and it's just going to be a really, really, big game. Panthers Jags can be kind of weird. Carolina looked really good last week. Like we already mentioned that. Bryce Young had his best game of his career. Jags desperately need a win. I mean, Jags cannot lose this game. They have absolutely looked awful recently. They've little rhythm on both ends of the field, and the turnover issues have been a big, big issue as well. So that's going to be kind of intriguing to me. Jags definitely have to win that game. Broncos benching Russell Wilson. Excuse me. That's going to be kind of weird. Broncos playoff chances I think is at like 5% right now, so that's going to be. I don't really blame them for doing that. They're just looking ahead for next week. Rams Giants. I mean, Giants played decently well against the Eagles last week, but I do think the Rams will take down the Giants. I want to see if the Giants can kind of come back and play good like they did last week, especially on defense, especially on turning the ball over. And I most importantly, I want to see Rams continue their offensive prowess that they've had so far because, you talk of teams about like the Steelers or Bills, like Rams are definitely another team that you do not want to see in the playoffs, going forward, especially if you're one of the top seeds and they're one of the bottom seeds. So kind of like the Bucks as well. Bucks and Rams are like those two teams in the NFC that you definitely would not want to play, if you're a higher tier, a higher seeded team in the NFC playoff bracket. Let's move on. New week's resolutions. Zach,
I want people to see what bowl games are, and that is basically the first spring game of next year. The way that we look at the 2023 teams, the versions of these teams, that's over with because guys are opting out, guys are entering the transfer portal, guys are doing this and that. This is basically what we're doing now is we're waiting to see who's going to break out. The freshmen, the sophomores, the guys that aren't starting, who's going to be the guy that kind of stands out, makes his case to be the guy next year. So I know everybody's going to look at the final record. They're going to look at, you beat a top 10 team or you beat this team in a bowl game. The reality is the 15 extra practices and the fact that you get an opportunity to essentially treat this like the first scrimmage game or first spring game, I think is the way that people need to start looking at any bowl game that isn't the college football playoff.
Yeah. My New Week's resolution, offensive line for Texas, for the Longhorns, will need to show up against Washington on January 1st. When Quinn Ewers, he's protected, he has amazing games, and then when he's not protected, he struggles badly. I think we saw it. It was the LSU game, I think it was, and I think he struggles majorly against teams when he doesn't have good protection. But when he does have good protection, he absolutely plays his best games of his career. And so that's going to be my New Week's resolution. Heading into the Sugar Bowl with Washington, he's going to need to be protected big time. And it's I need to see the offensive line for Texas really step up to give the Longhorns a chance against an explosive Washington team, especially on offense, but also very good pass rushers as well. Justin, what is your New Week's resolution?
Obviously not putting the Dolphins and Ravens on Sunday Night Football, but at least start to announce the time of some games in Week 18, especially with some teams out of the playoff mix and some teams probably going to rest their starters. I know they're waiting for Sunday to announce it and announce the Sunday night game there, but at least announce some of the times, especially Jets-Patriots. That's going to be a Week 18 game at 1 o'clock that nobody's going to want to watch. You go with the Browns and the Bengals. That could be a primetime game, maybe a 4 o'clock game. Bears-Packers, looking at this. The Packers, especially if they lose this week, that could be a 1 o'clock game. And then you go with Falcons and Saints. That probably could be a 1 o'clock game as well. And then you go with the rest of the games, which are kind of up in the air right now. And obviously, some of the games being West Coast and East Coast games. So I think the NFL should start announcing some of the Week 18 times this week.
They don't do that typically until Sunday before week
Yeah.
18.
Technically,
That's just a general practice.
yeah, that is. But
Yeah,
technically, they used to do it, announce 1 o'clock games, and then move whatever game it is that everybody wants to see to the 8 o'clock game on Sunday night.
Yeah.
But I see.
I think they got to balance because you want some 1 o'clock games to have
Yeah.
some meaning.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to just have everybody be able to skip the 1 o'clock slate.
Yeah.
But it should be, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You got to make it interesting. It's hard to schedule though. I definitely don't envy them because it's definitely
That's
hard
right.
to schedule, especially with
Yep.
obviously playoff implications. All right, guys, let's move on. Steve Mcgehee, News 9 in Oklahoma City. Awesome interview with him. Breakdown everything Thunder. They've been playing amazing. Like I said, they were a 9th seed last year. Didn't even make it out of the play-in. Lost to Minnesota, and now they find themselves as a 3 seed, playing amazing. Probably the best shooting team in the country. One of the best shooting teams in the country, both field goals and 3-point percentages. But we'll get to all that with him. And so without any further ado, let's head to the Midwest and talk to Steve in Oklahoma City. Okay, we now head to the Midwest, talk to Steve Mcgehee from News 9. Steve, you cover the Oklahoma City Thunder. How long have you been doing that for? How long have you been covering the Thunder for News 9?
I got here in 2009, and then about 9.5 years ago, during the offseason, they asked me, how would you like to cover the Thunder, home and away? And I thought it was kind of a joke. I was like, and I said, sure,
Yeah.
I'll do it. And then about 5 minutes later, I'm in the office with the management, and I said, hold on here. I have a daughter and I have a wife. I gotta get their permission first. And they gave me the thumbs up, and here we are some 9 years later, still going up to as many games as we can. My first year, I went to over 100 basketball games. That was Durant's last year in Oklahoma City. And then I try to go to probably about 90% home and away. It's a long schedule,
That's awesome.
as you know.
It's a very long schedule. It's only getting longer. It seems like every 5 years it only gets longer, just like the NFL, every other sport wants more money, right? They want more games, want more money. So it's gonna we'll see what it looks like in 10 years from now. But let's talk about Oklahoma City Thunder though. Last year, 9th seed, they beat won in the first round in the play-in tournament, and then did lose to, I think it was Minnesota. Correct? They lost to Minnesota.
Yeah, they knocked off New Orleans in New Orleans. Of course, the Pelicans were without Zion Williamson, but still, it was a good road win. It was a game that you felt like, I don't see the Thunder losing this game as it went further and further along, and they ended up winning comfortably, I thought, and maybe a little scared at the end there, but you never felt like they were going to lose that game. And then the Minnesota game was pretty much all Timberwolves. Almost from the start, the crowd was into it much more than New Orleans. It was a playoff atmosphere, and I thought that was a great learning experience for the Thunder, just to be in that type of environment in a so-called must-win situation. These guys we know about, they're young, one of the youngest teams in the NBA, still I think the second youngest right now. So they're still learning. They got to get that experience. So I thought, even though they lost that game was probably their most important game last year.
Well, let's talk about that now, though, because now they find themselves at the 3 seed in the Western Conference. And, of course, last year, like I said, they ended in the 9th seed. Big difference. That's a big, big jump, especially in a pretty competitive Western Conference, all things considered. Let me ask you this to kind of start us off, and then we'll get more into the nitty-gritty of what the team has been doing so well this whole year. Did fans realistically think this was a possibility going into the season, or are they just pleasantly surprised with how where they find themselves in the standings going into like about halfway through the season?
I think there's got to be a little bit of surprise with how well they're doing early on. We thought there was going to be some issues maybe on the court of getting the guys to gel together. Chet Holmgren being thrown into the system, and it looks pretty flawless to me. The games that they have lost, they just haven't shot the ball well. Their worst loss was a home loss to Denver, and then they go back to Denver about over a week ago and get the win, shooting the ball better. So they're capable of, I think, beating any team in the NBA. But I think a little bit surprised of how well they're doing. Perhaps they maybe not admit it, but it's surprised as well. But that just comes back to the head coach, Mark Daigneault, and his staff doing an excellent job of getting the guys to buy in, play unselfish basketball, and that's what they're doing right now. And we'll see what happens in January. If it's at the end of January, and they are still third, fourth, or fifth in the West. That'll be very impressive because they have a tough schedule coming up.
Yeah, that for sure. Yeah, and that we'll get to that in a second too. But that was going to be one of my questions, and you mentioned it yourself. You just said it. You just said it yourself. I think they're currently third in the whole NBA as far as field goal percentage goes, and I think they're second as far as 3-point percentage goes. And so, is there a kind of fear among the fan base about, hey, this team is kind of living and dying by the shooting, and that maybe this might fall off, second half of the year? And what's the fans' kind of sentiment on that? Because that's always kind of a iffy subject. Fan base gets kind of concerned about when a team is shooting so well, because of course shooting, it can be a little bit of a roller coaster sometimes. It can go up and down. And so has that kind of been a fear of the fan base?
I don't know if it's a fear or not, because Casey Wallace and Isaiah Joe have cooled off a little bit over the last week, 2 weeks or so, but they're capable of turning it back on. Isaiah Joe can hit 5 threes in a game like that. He's been an excellent player coming off the bench, coming over, I guess, Philadelphia's mistake by letting him go, and the Thunder quickly snatched him up. But Casey Wallace can hit some threes. If those guys have an off shooting night, perhaps it's going to be a couple of threes from Shea, which is a rarity. He's more of an inside guy, drive and score and get to the free throw line. Lou Dort, corner three, is still good. Josh Giddey, a couple of nights ago, knocked down a couple of threes. That's not his forte, but if they're going to leave him open, he's going to knock down that shot. He's got a great shooting coach in Chip England to help him with his shot. Chet Holmgren starting to warm up a little bit from 3-point range. So they have some shooters, and some guys can be off some night, and some other guys can step up. But they play good defense, and they play team basketball. So if the shots, obviously, if you're a poor shooting from three, chances are you're going to lose. But last night they shot 60% from the field against Minnesota. That was a big difference in why they won by double digits. And the other night they lose to the Lakers and LeBron. LeBron scores 40, but the Lakers also 16 out of 32 from the 3-point line. So you got to tip your hat to them. Some nights you can't win them all, but the Thunder more times than not are going to knock down that shot when they need it. I don't think the cold shooting is it may be a stretch where they may lose 2 or 3 games in a row, but I don't see like a 4 or 5 game losing streak from this team at all. They're just too good unless there's some injuries along the way that we don't know about. And of course, injuries are everyone's number one opponent in a season like this.
Of course. Yeah, you mentioned the team play of OKC. I mean, that's always been a thing that Oklahoma City has been known for, has been unselfish play and team play. I mean, I think they are top 5 in the league, if I'm not mistaken. I think they were, as of last night anyhow, top 5 in the league as far as assists per game goes. And when they pass the ball a lot, they definitely have a good record. I think I saw an article that, games where they pass the ball 27 times or more, they're 9-1.
Yeah. And
I think they're averaging right now just over 26 a game. So yeah, I mean, they definitely like to pass the ball around a lot, and they get the ball, they pass it a lot, and they draw a lot of fouls too. And that's been another thing I think that's been a big factor for this OKC team. It's just getting to the line. And if you want to talk to that, talk on that at all, just about their ability to get to the line and how crucial getting to the charity stripe has been for this team.
They just they play, as I mentioned, unselfish basketball. They're very disciplined, and if they have a couple of possessions, it could be the start of the game in the first quarter or the start of the third quarter. If they have a couple of possessions in a row where they look like they took a bad shot or were trying too hard, Mark Daignault's not afraid to call timeout and just kind of correct this thing, hit the reset button. But that's what I like about him. He doesn't let a team run off like 8 or 10 in a row to start a quarter, and they're like, hold on, we got to stop this. We're not doing this right. So, but the team doesn't take wild shots. And obviously sometimes you got to credit the defense that you're down to the second on the shot clock violation. So you got to jack up a shot that's probably not going to go in, but more times than not, they're going to try to find the right shot. And some of the games they've lost has just been some shots that normally the ball goes in. And this, those instances, the ball doesn't go in and they lose by 6-8 points, but they take disciplined shots. They don't take crazy shots, as I mentioned, and they don't care how they get the points, whether it's a fancy 3 or a fancy 2-point dunk. They prefer, if it's just free throws, just put points on the board. That's what you're trying to get, right? Just put the points on the board.
Absolutely.
We don't know how, doesn't matter how we get them. Let's just get them.
Nope. What's your thoughts on that before we get more into the, details of the actual team itself, OKC? I mean, I forget. It might have been like Durant himself that said it, I think. But Are you kind of in line of this mindset in the NBA that offense is actually more important than defense, just considering how talented and athletic everyone is?
Well, you have to score. There's no
Yeah.
question about that. I would balance it probably 65 offense, 35% defense.
Yep.
But if you have 5 guys on the floor that can't defend, you're probably not going to win. And I think that's what some other teams out there are struggling with. They got the all-stars and they got the guys that could easily score 30 points a game when they're healthy, but they're not doing anything on the other end of the floor. And so sometimes that doesn't add up. But I would say you got to score. The Thunder have been scoring well this year. They certainly did last night. But you need defense, though. I mean, you need the Lou Dort. You need Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. You need J-Dub, Jalen Williams out of Santa Clara. Their second pick in the draft 2 summers ago. They had Chet, and then they had Jalen Williams, and they had Usman Jang. So you need guys like that can play defense. But and those guys I mentioned kind of do it both ways, defend and shoot as well.
Yeah, I mentioned top 5 in assists, but they're top 5 in points too, averaging exactly 121 points as of Wednesday when we're recording this. How important not important, but how surprising has been Gilgeous-Alexander? I mean, do you think he has potential to be most improved player of the year?
Well, he was all NBA first team last year, so I don't know. Most improved.
But even then, there's something even more about him this year. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's I think averaging 30 points a game. He's either second in the league or I think he's third in the league right now in scoring. And I remember asking him a couple of years ago before the season even started, I'm like, you could easily average 25, 30 points a game if you wanted to. And he goes, I know, but I'm not that type of person. I want to get my teammates involved. And, obviously he knows when to turn it on. I'm like, we need a bucket. I'm going to put a move on a guy and go inside and try to draw the foul and get a 3-point play. So, but he is very unselfish. When he first got into the league, he was, especially with the Thunder, he was shooting threes. He's kind of toned that down. If he's wide open, he's going to shoot it, but you rarely see him come down the floor and just stop and shoot a three. That, you saw that maybe in his rookie year with the Clippers and maybe year number 2 with the Thunder when they had Chris Paul, but he's kind of toned it down on the threes. That's really not his forte. His forte is to dribble, drive, and dish and give someone the dunk or an easy layup or get a 3-point play and go to the free throw line. But he's always at the free throw line. I don't have the averages on the free throw line, but I would imagine 8 to 10 points every game are from the free throw line. And he's a good free throw shooter too.
Yeah, and Chet Holmgren. I mean, if we're going to keeping it on individual players, I mean, Chet Holmgren, obviously first year in the league. How's he been received? He's been playing really, really well too, as people expected that he was going to be a superstar.
It's just a shame that we had to wait a whole year. You get your you do what you have to do to get the second pick in the draft. You get your guy, and I'm a firm believer that I think if the Thunder had the first pick in the draft 2 summers ago, they would have taken Chet over Paolo Banchero. But that's just my thought. I don't have anything to really back that up internally and what they were thinking. But it just seemed like a Sam Presti, the GM for the Thunder, his type of guy, a 7-footer that's lengthy, can shoot threes, play offense, and block shots interior wise. So that's what they're getting right now. I was so worried about that foot injury 2 summers ago that, this could affect him. Figures we get the second pick in the draft, and then we got a guy that, I always think about somebody like Sam Bowie and then Greg Oden, big guys that get hurt and they never have the careers they wanted in the NBA. But, he has proven me wrong so far, and I'm okay with that. But there's been no issues with the foot. It didn't even come up. I don't even think he thinks about it. He's just trying to be better every day, and he has been a huge help. I remember last year there'd be countless games. I'm like, Chet would have blocked that shot. Chet would have got that rebound. You think had Chet played, I don't know how many times I said it. If Chet would have played, they would have won the game. So it's nice to have him on this Thunder lineup, and he's only going to get better. He's only going to get better. He's going to put on more muscle. He's not going to be Hulk over in the offseason. He'll put on 5 to 10 pounds, I would imagine, for a couple of seasons. But they want him to be mobile. They want him to be quick on his feet, be able to dribble the ball up the floor if they have to. So he's not going to be a muscle guy by any means, but he's a troublemaker for opponents because he can score down low and he can also score behind the line. Kind of, not Joel Embiid type as far as the big mass that Joel has. He makes it so tough to defend him, but they want his game to kind of be like that can score inside and out.
Yeah, I mean, over 17 points per game so far. I mean, shooting the ball behind the arc, like you said, very well as well. And then 53% from the field. So, no, he's playing really good. And I think he's actually been, I mean, I know it's only his first year in the league, really, but I think he's been under the radar so far, especially just given with how well he's been playing and being only his first year, coming off a pretty bad foot injury too, all things considered, like you just said, Steve. So, but Jalen Williams too. Speaking of a guy that doesn't get enough credit, I mean, he's been very vital for this team as well, especially, when he comes games where he shows up and he can score at least, 15, 16, 17 points. I mean, he's been absolutely vital and very helpful for the Thunder.
Yeah, he's out there when Shea's on the floor, on the bench. He's out there. He's kind of like their go-to guy. Obviously, Chet's out there sometimes as well. He's a tremendous pickup. Someone did their homework, and they got an A+ on the draft test because he's been incredible. He was the 12th pick in the draft 2 summers ago. And here you got a guy that could potentially be an NBA All-Star, maybe not this year, but on down the road. That's pretty good value for the 12th pick in the draft. And he's been, he can defend as well. He's a good defender, a good shooter. He can create his own shot. So he's only going to get better. And that's one of the reasons why they're where they're at right now, 19-9, because they have more than just Shea. They have more than just Chet. You throw in J-Dub, Jalen Williams. He can score as well. So if Shea takes the night off or, is resting, I feel comfortable with J-Dub getting in there and getting the points.
So last time the Thunder made the playoffs. I don't know what your thoughts are if you consider the play in the playoffs, but let's just say the 7-game series. The last time the Thunder did that was in that 2019 season. And that was the first year before the play-in actually was even established. I think the first year the play-in was established was the 2020 season. So my question for you though is, what is the expectations for the fans? Like, what would they be thrilled about? Would they just be thrilled making, past the play-in, a 6 seed and above, or what is like the expectations for the fans now, given how well they've been playing this first half of the year?
I would imagine the expectations would be making the playoffs. Internally, that's what they want to do. They, we'll see what happens, but that's their goal. They may not tell us in front of the microphones and cameras, but they definitely want to make the playoffs, and keep trending the right way. If they don't, it's probably because of an injury or two that, no one can predict that. And that's very possible, not only for the Thunder, but also for the Nuggets and the Clippers and the Lakers and the Timberwolves.
Any team, yeah.
They can get everybody. But I think a playoff is probably the expectation right now. Can they win a playoff series? It all depends. You got to stay away from that 7-8 spot. That 7-8 spot is dangerous because you got to play extra games, and there's a good chance that say Memphis works their way up into the 10th seed, and they get Ja back and they get Marcus Smart back, and that's a team you probably don't want to play if they're a 10 seed because that's the reason why they were down so low is because those guys were hurt, and now they're going to be trying to race and get wins. And so if they're a 10 seed or 9 seed, that's a team I don't want to play those guys. So 6 seed, 5 seed, it seems reasonable right now, and I think that's where you want to be. You want to avoid those playing games.
Yeah, they shouldn't have they really should not have a problem doing it. It's kind of, I don't know how much you follow the NFL, Steve, but it's really now, and the Western Conference is pretty analogous to the AFC and the NFL. I mean, there's not really besides maybe the Nuggets, there's not really a dominant team in the West. I mean, Minnesota's obviously at the top right now. That seems a little fluky to me. I don't know. It just doesn't seem like that's going to be something that is still the case at the end of the year. And then, like I said, besides the Nuggets, it just doesn't seem like there's really a dominant team in the West. And then, of course, the East, you have dominant teams, just like you do the NFC in NFL. I mean, you have Boston, Celtics, and the Sixers. They're going to be 3 dominant teams that will be, going to at least the divisional round. So, I mean, it is kind of weird, right? And I want to hear any sentiments of like the fans, but it does kind of seem like they have a chance if they keep playing well, and they most importantly just keep making the shots like they've been making. Like they actually have a chance not just to make the playoffs, but go far in the play. Because like I said, there really is not that dominant of a team in the West. Yeah,
I mean, the win at Denver a little bit over a week ago, and they play in Denver, I think, coming up on, hold on here, let's see, Friday night. And so the Nuggets will be ready for that one to get some revenge. But they've beaten the Lakers, they have beaten the Clippers, they have beaten the Nuggets in Denver. They lost at Houston. For some reason, they can't win at Houston right now, and they can't win at Sacramento. Last time they won Sacramento, they've already lost there twice, and the last time they won there, Chris Paul was on the team. But if they had to play like Sacramento in round one, I'd be a little leery of that. But regular season playoffs, as you know, that they don't mean they can be different. It's a different animal when you get to the playoffs. It's like a chess match between two coaches and two teams. But there's really no one that we've seen so far that they couldn't win at least 2 playoff games against. Now, can they win a 7-game series against the Nuggets? We'll see. We'll see about that. But the good thing about the Thunder is they have all those draft picks. So, and right now they're just kind of in that let's see what we have mode. Let's see what we had. What do we need? Well, I'm not sure what we need just yet. It'd be like someone asking you in July, "Hey, what do you want for Christmas?" I'm like, "Can I get back with you?" I don't know what I want. That's too far. So we'll see what happens at the trade deadline. They can certainly help themselves out in the trade deadline. They feel like they look at the landscape in the Western Conference, and you know what? I think we can get that guy. And all we have to do is give up this and this. If we got him, I think he's going to fit with this team. That's all about fitting with the team. They don't want anybody that's going to disrupt the chemistry they have right now. They have a really good chemistry. Everybody gets along with everybody. But if their management team thinks they can find someone that can help them further along and win some playoff games, I think they would go for it. But they're not going to rock the boat with a major splash. But they'll look into it. But right now, they're just kind of in a wait-and-see mode and just kind of see what they have. And right now, they have a 19-9 team with the 6th best record in the NBA. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I'm gonna. So you mentioned the draft picks coming up. I'm gonna table that for a second. My second to last question though is, the rebounding for Oklahoma City. The Thunder. Excuse me. How, I don't think that's being talked about enough. They've been a team over the last 3-4 years. And now, synonymous for just not rebounding the ball well. They've been a very bad rebounding team of late. But this year, they've really done a great job of both defensive and offensive rebounds. And it's really helped the team. Their opposing team isn't getting as their second chance points that has been killing them all this time too. So just speak on how important the rebounding prowess has been for the Thunder.
Rebounding is different now from when I was growing up. You put the tall guy in the middle and you get the rebound after a miss. But with so many 3-point shots being put up, you have no idea which direction that ball's going to go after it hits the rim. It may go in. If it's short, which way is it going to bounce? So it's kind of hard. You could be underneath the basket blocking out, and that ball ricochets 10 feet to the other direction. So the rebounding is right. An interesting stat because that ball bounces, and with so many threes getting put up nowadays, and less than half go in. So it's anyone's guess which direction that ball is going to go. Now, when it bounces, you got to hurry up and hustle and get to it. And maybe they were kind of slow to the draw on that. But you got to be quick and alert at all times. I can't remember which. I think it was all these games kind of blend together. But I think it was the game on the 23rd. I think it was Lakers. It may have been the home game before the Lakers. And it was a close game with about 3 minutes to go. And it looked like Oklahoma City then just hit the button. And they got every loose ball. And they got every rebound. And they had the stops on the defensive side of the ball. So you can tell when teams kind of pick up the energy, to get those loose balls and get those rebounds and be at the right place at the right time. But the rebounding's been good. That draft 2 summers ago was Chet, J-Dub, Ousmane Dieng, and then you got early in the second round, Jalen Williams out of Arkansas, 6'8", 6'9", 6'10". I think he's 6'10", big burly guy. He's been a huge help for the Thunder now in year number 2. Can also knock down some threes, but he's a bulk inside, and he can get those rebounds as well. So that draft 2 summers ago is one of the reasons why they're here right now, 3rd best in the West.
So my last question, Steve. So you just kind of alluded to it yourself. This has been really fun, by the way. Thank you so much. But my last question. So say I don't know how many games will be played come the All-Star break, but say they're still 3-2 in the West, great record going to the All-Star break. Actually, I don't know when the trade deadline comes into play in this either. But what is just I'm not going to ask you what they're going to get, because you said, we don't know what we need yet, which is totally fair. But is there any indication that, given that they are in a really good spot here, come the February 8th trade deadline, is there any indication that they will kind of make an all-in this year to try to not just make the playoffs, but make it far in the playoffs and beyond?
Going all in, I'm not sure. When you mean all in, like trade like 5 or 6 first round picks and maybe a starter.
Yeah, I mean, just get just trade a lot of picks to get like a big name.
I'm
player.
not sure like that. I would say it's be more like a rental, someone that can help you out for maybe the rest of this season and maybe next year, a contract that fits within their salary cap. But there may be calls out there made to Sam Presti, like, well, I didn't expect this. I got to think about this trade. But I would say right now, I would say they would make some type of trade at the trade deadline or before the trade deadline that will help this team in March and in April and in those playoff games. Somebody with experience. I think right now they just lack experience in my mind. Just and the best way to get experience is just keep playing games. But with them being so young right now, and never assume next year is going to be the better year. I would never assume that. So if there's someone that can get some experience, maybe helping with the internal rebounding, I could see them going for that. But there may be an opportunity out there that catches Sam Presti's eye. I'm like, okay, I like this guy. I really coveted this guy through the years, and we have a chance to get him. And only have to give up this and that for him. And I think that can help us maybe win the West or be in the conversation, at least go to the Western Conference Finals. I think he would really think long, hard about it and potentially make the move. But right now, I don't see them making a major move. But I think they make something, at least a minor move that could help them out. But they have a pretty good bench, I think, with Kendrick Williams and Cason Wallace and Aaron Wiggins coming off the bench, plus Jalen Williams, Jay Will out of Arkansas. That's a pretty solid bench. So they have good experience. I wish some of those guys were a little bit taller, but maybe height and experience is what they need if they bring somebody in.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, Steve, it's just going to take patience, but you can't deny. I mean, I don't know, 2-3 years, I don't know what it's going to be, but they're definitely on track to be one of the top teams in the West. Especially, Denver will start to slide eventually, as that's just kind of how it happens in the NBA. It's very cyclical. So, they'll be on a slide at some point. Minnesota will be on a slide. And then I think, like I said, 2-3 years from now, you can definitely, I wouldn't be surprised if you would find Oklahoma City as one of the top teams, if not the top seeded team in the West, going into the playoffs. So it's really exciting. One of the most exciting teams right now in the NBA. And, I'm rooting for them for sure to keep up the success that they've had.
I think what we've learned in the past is never assume you're going to get back there the next year. Never assume, because when they played the Heat in the finals, they win game 1, then they lose the next 4. And they got rid of that 2-3-2 series. But we just assumed, Thunder fans, that, we'll be back next year. And then in the playoffs against Houston, Russell Westbrook knocks knees with Patrick Beverly. He's out of the playoffs. And they lose in the next round against Memphis. And then Serge Ibaka gets hurt the next year at the wrong time. And then I think it was Scott Brooks' last year. They start the year without Russell and Kevin Durant. And and they missed the playoffs that year. So, and then they missed it, take away a Klay Thompson game in Oklahoma City, and they're probably playing in the NBA championship. And Kevin Durant may have probably stayed in Oklahoma City a few more years after that. But, what's done is done. It's water under the bridge. But never assume that next year you're going to get there. If you have a way to get there this year, I think you got to go for it within reason when it comes to trading.
And I think a lot of teams feel that way, especially in the NBA. I mean, that's why I was asking about that kind of all-in mentality. But it's you got to stay healthy. No, it doesn't matter what sport it is. That's for sure. You have to stay healthy.
Yeah, we're seeing that in the NFL right now.
Effect.
There's a lot of teams in the NFL just limping to the finish line without their quarterback or running back or wide receiver or best defender. A lot of games, and it's going to happen.
And that's why the product has been a little bad for the NFL too. That's a whole other conversation, obviously. But no, you got to stay healthy, and that's what Adam Silver wants too. He's speaking from a financial point and a product point. That's he doesn't want players to get injured either. Believe me, because it affects the product. So Well, Steve, this has been awesome. Like I said, I really appreciate your time. Have you on again, and we'll talk some more Thunder. And like I said, love to have you on. Really appreciate it.
No doubt. Hopefully, we can talk later on this season, talking about a playoff. We'll see.
Yeah, I would love that. No, if they did, I would actually love that. So we'll be in touch and get you on again sometime shortly. Okay.
Take care.
Okay, let's finish the show with our off the map and long hauls of the week. Justin, what is your
My off the map of the week is Chad Ryland, the kicker for the New England Patriots, making the game-winning field goal from over 50 yards against the Broncos, but also missing a field goal, chip shot field goal, and an extra point. Still won the game for the Patriots. Instead of just missing the extra point and field goal, he comes back and he wins the game for the Patriots with a long field goal, beating the Broncos 26-23. Ryland, not the best kicker, but definitely not the worst kicker, as he can kick from 50 yards, but very weirdly can't make chip shots at the extra point and the field goals. But Chad Ryland is my off the map of the week, Patriots kicker.
He's farsighted. My off the map of the week, going to go to college basketball, women's college basketball. Juju Watkins, freshman for USC, playing absolutely amazing. I mean, she's putting up crazy stats as a freshman. Second leading scorer, just behind Caitlin Clark at 27 points per game. That's, like I said, just behind Caitlin Clark's 30 and a half. She's earned the Pac-12 Freshman of the Week honors in each of her first 5 weeks. The Trojans are now at number 6 with a ranking of undefeated ranking of 10-0, reaching new heights for starting for a freshman in fandom that's matching the likes of Angel Reese and Clayton Clark. So she's been playing absolutely amazing. So yeah, that's my off map of the week. Juju Watkins, USC freshman, just playing absolutely off her mind, and definitely a name to look out for going down the stretch. Zach, what is your off the map?
It's going to be John L. Davis from Florida Atlantic, 35 points against Arizona. Maybe the best game of the college basketball season so far. FAU winning that game in double overtime. This is a team that, of course, made that Cinderella run to the Final Four last year as a number 9 seed. I think this team's absolutely for real. They pretty much brought everybody back from last year's team. They had an early season loss against Bryant, which is probably going to hurt them in the seeding, but they balanced that out with a big win against Arizona. Highest ever ranking for this Owls program, number 7 in the rankings this week. And Dusty May, I think one of the best coaches in college basketball, has done a great job with this program. Would not be surprised to see Florida Atlantic make another deep run in the NCAA tournament.
Long haul. Justin, what is your long haul? Finish us up.
Long haul of the week, the Chiefs. And that could be the maker of the week. That could be basically, not the maker of the week, the faker of the week.
Faker.
And, that is definitely just, the way they're playing, the way they're going about their stuff, the way they're going about their business. A lot of commercials, a lot of off-the-field gossip, a lot of this, a lot of that. Right onto the field it goes, and that's why they lost to the Raiders. I am tired of the Chiefs. They deserve to lose in the first round of the playoffs, if you ask me, with the way they're playing. The softest team in the NFL that's going into the playoffs, probably, and they will.
Yeah. My long haul, switching up to baseball, Dodgers being a World Series favorites. We've already kind of talked about this. Obviously, they got Yamamoto and then Shohei Ohtani this offseason, 2 of the biggest free agents on the market. Obviously, especially Shohei Ohtani, but they still need pitching. Yamamoto definitely solves that for them, but they have shown no signs of being able to win the postseason. Obviously, D-backs this year and then the Padres the year before that. Both years they lost in the playoffs to those teams, and they had World Series aspirations of both of those years. Like I said, they still need pitching, and I just think despite their regular season success, the Dodgers have not really been good in the postseason, and until they can really show that, I'm not really going to put them as World Series favorites, and they need to show me more in the postseason, and that narrative isn't going to really change to me until they start proving that otherwise. So yeah, that's my long haul. The Dodgers being a World Series favorites, I think, we got to see it first before people can really start hammering that in. Zach, what is your long haul?
Potential wild card matchups include the Kansas City Chiefs against the Buffalo Bills. You talk about a great first round matchup with Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. We all know about their history in the regular season and, of course, in the postseason. Then you've got in the NFC, you've got the potential to have Matthew Stafford going back to Detroit to play the Lions and what would be the Lions' first home playoff game since 1993. I mean, you talk about juicy storylines. That is about as juicy as it gets. And then I think a team like the Cleveland Browns right now is a 5 seed playing probably the AFC South winner. I think they're in a prime position to win a playoff game and give themselves an opportunity to make an AFC playoff push. And then right now, you probably get the Cowboys and the Bucks. Some of these wild card games just absolutely fascinating. And if these hold up, I think we're going to have a great postseason. A couple years ago, remember, basically every game was decided by a touchdown or less. Last year, there were more blowouts than there were the previous postseason. I think we're going to have a nice mix this year. I think we're going to have some great matchups, and these wild card games right now look really intriguing.
Yeah, no, it's a weird season. Like I said, there's not really but there's one absolute contender that you really can't argue, which is the Ravens. But I mean, there's obviously 3 in the NFC, but even they are kind of shaky right now, and that being the Cowboys, Eagles, and 49ers, obviously. But it's a weird year. A lot of it seems like for a time there, everyone was 7-8 or 8-7 or something, and it just was like it was half the team, half the league was just in that middle land, and it's going to be an awesome playoffs for sure, and with a lot of good matchups, like you said, Zach. All right, good show. Best of on Saturday, most likely no show on Tuesday, but we'll be back on Thursday, and have a happy New Year's to everyone, and we'll see you all next week. But until then, keep on traveling and be safe over New Year's.